People are always asking us how much a typical trip in a van costs and if it costs less than driving a car or flying somewhere. Well, I'm here to tell you there's no right answer to that question. There's no such thing as one type of van life. Some people are full time, others just weekend warriors. Some trips are rushed because you have to take care of family or other issues, while many can be random travel and let's just see what happens. You have people like me that enjoy planning things, maybe a little too much, and others that don't have a clue what the next day will hold, so expenses can vary greatly that way too. And don't forget, costs are higher in some parts of the country and lower in others, so your expenses can vary just based on your location. And if you travel to Canada or Mexico, you may have other expenses, spending more for some items while spending less for others. How do you answer how much it costs if there are so many variables? All I can do is show you what we spent on our trips throughout the year for our style of travel. You have to decide how relevant those costs are for your travel experiences. Since our travel style could be very different from your own, expenses are variable, so what I present here has to be viewed with that in mind. We tend to have a final destination in mind and planned on stops and sights to see along the way. For example, we've had to go to Missouri a lot to help family out, so that would be our final destination. But we also want to see things like big balls of twine and giant decorative eggs, so we tend to have a planned out itinerary. Okay, a very planned out itinerary. But it also means we can plan for those interesting sights along the way. We often stay at an RV park or a hotel after a few nights to take a long shower, to do laundry, and to generally decompress from travel. And this is definitely an expense if we're at a hotel, since we have our dog and there are always pet fees. At least $25, if not more. And if you want a hotel that actually cleans the room after other people's dogs have been there, that's going to be a more expensive hotel to begin with. So the hotels we stay at are, shall we say, a little higher quality, so the costs are naturally higher. But we find that better than having fleas and ticks tag along on our trip after a hotel stay. You may not have a pet or even stay at hotels, so again, your expenses could be much less than ours. Another thing we do is treat ourselves to local cuisine, so our restaurant expenses are pretty high. To add to that, if we visit friends and family, we may be paying for their meals, especially if we're staying at their place. And finally, we don't tend to choose better weather or make plans based on summer or winter travel. But we still like to be comfortable in the van, so use gasoline for the heater in winter and battery power for the AC in summer. And all of that costs money in one way or another. This year, we were able to travel quite a bit more than in previous years, including going to points north to see family and friends, to Georgia to see our daughter at college, and to Florida, Wisconsin, and Indiana for van meetups, including seeing sights in between. With all of that in mind, what were our costs? Well, to figure that out, I made a spreadsheet. Of course he made a spreadsheet. Hush your mouth. Let the man speak.
Ach, congratulations. It's good, no?
Yo, dude, what's happening? I divided expenses into categories. Vehicle, which includes fuel, insurance on the van, maintenance, public transport, and tolls. Living, which includes RV parks, hotels, groceries, laundry, and internet expenses. Membership, which includes Harvest host fees and our Waggle pet monitor. and entertainment, which includes tickets for events, museums, and other sites, restaurants, snacks, gifts, harvest host purchases, and other miscellaneous expenses. All expenses only include items that are directly related to the RV. So costs such as health insurance, license tag fees, clothing purchases, regular vehicle maintenance are not included in this chart. These are things we would need to spend money on anyway, so I don't consider them expenses incurred due to RV travel. Things like insurance and internet services only include costs directly related to the RV. So home internet is not included, nor is insurance for the house or other vehicles or even health insurance, all things I would need regardless of RV ownership. And that goes for vehicle maintenance too. We had oil changes, but I would have those on any vehicle, regardless of travel. On the other hand, we had to repair a loose fender cladding which had broken off, and that isn't a usual maintenance issue, so I did add that expense. If you think regular maintenance should be included, you'll have to add your cost onto your own. If there are unforeseen expenses, such as a health issue directly related to traveling in an RV, it will be listed as a miscellaneous expense. If a health issue arises that could have happened at home, then I don't include that. Again, your costs may vary. I determined how many days and miles we traveled each month and calculated our trip cost by day and by mile. I did this for every month of 2024. Which sure did take a lot of time, I tell you what. Whoa. Like, time is like an illusion, dude. You're about one fry short of a Happy Meal, ain't ya? And one more thing. I determined the average expenses per month based only on the months we actually traveled, or by averaging the entire year. I felt one figure may be more relevant than the other depending on the category. Mostly determined if a category had expenses during that month or not. All right, already, get on with it. It does seem you could talk the legs off a chair.
Ja, I would concur. Your explanations are giving quite verbose and the presentation somewhat prolix, yeah?
Hey, man, it's all cool. Like, let's all just get comfy and, relaxed and, what are we talking about? Maybe a few fries short. All right. First up are vehicle expenses. We spent a little over $8,000 for the year, broken down as follows. We spent a total of $3,615.42, with an average of $451.93 per month for the 8 months we traveled. We averaged 1,889.6 miles for each month we traveled, with an average cost of 23 cents per mile. Note that during cold months, we have to run the heater, which uses gasoline from our tank, and in warm months, I sometimes run the engine to charge the battery, so I don't really estimate miles per gallon, as it would be pretty pointless since gasoline can be used for things other than just moving the RV from place to place. I'm more interested in how much gas I'm using overall. The miles per gallon is whatever it's going to be based on how fast I go, how much stuff I'm carrying, and so on. In the end, it really isn't important. What matters is the expense of gasoline overall. Also note that I did not keep track of fuel costs when we were at home, since I'm more interested in actual travel expenses. So if we use the RV at home for shopping or getting the oil changed or whatever, then those fuel costs and mileage are ignored. As I said before, I'm not including any insurance on our house or other vehicles. So our total cost for the year on just the RV was $1,666.53, an average of $208.32 for the 8 months we traveled, or $138.88 for a 12-month year. There was some issue about what we actually were being charged for insurance, so that's why there's more than one payment on the chart. I had to get the insurance updated to reflect the actual cost of the RV. We did regular oil changes and upkeep, as well as taking the Ford in for a couple of recalls. We also had recurring warnings for a blind spot and a low visibility issue, and had to have that looked at. Fortunately, it was covered, so no expenses there. Regrettably, the Ford dealers near us in Houston leave much to be desired, as they refuse to work on Transits that have been modified as RVs. So we went to EB Ford while we were in Goshen, Indiana, which I have to say is one of the best Ford dealers I've been to. They worked on our van without any headaches. The total cost, including EB Ford repairing a broken fender cladding and Embassy RV replacing our second alternator, was $2,432. We rented a car while we were getting the RV looked at over at EB Ford. Did I mention they're the best? But that was about it. I thought we might be using ride-sharing services, but never needed to, so public transportation cost was only $466.56. We have a toll tag good for Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and a uni toll pass for most other states, and only spent a total of $7.10 for the entire year, which isn't much at all. The next category is living expenses, totaling a little over $4,500. We tend to stay at either an RV park or hotel every few days to freshen up with real showers and, if possible, to do laundry. We spent a total of $507.41 at RV parks and $2,414.91 at hotels. Now don't forget, we travel with our dog and hotels have a pet fee, so we tend to spend more at hotels. This averaged out to $63.43 for RV parks and $301.86 for hotels for each of the 8 months we were on the road. I don't include any groceries we have at the beginning of a trip, as these are items we have in our fridge at home and it would just be too difficult to get an exact cost. So the items under groceries are just what we buy on the road. In my view, this is more accurate anyway, since the RV fridge is smaller than a standard home fridge. So we tend to buy things in smaller quantities or that have smaller packaging, which usually means more cost. And that's what I'm interested in, cost of food while traveling. Our total for the year was $799.10, which averaged $99.89 for each of the 8 months we traveled. At some point, you have to clean your clothes, so this is an added expense while traveling. We travel with clothes that are quick dry, so sometimes save by washing items in the sink, but sooner or later we need a laundromat. For this, we spent a total of $27.75 for the year. Note that some hotels have laundry machines and they may be free, but that expense would have to be included in our hotel costs. Our van comes with an option for AT&T wireless while the Ford engine is running, so we added that for around $23 a month. I don't include our total AT&T bill since that would be something paid for with or without an RV. We also have a Verizon Visible account for $25 a month that started in March. We had to purchase another phone for that, so I included that as an expense for March as well. Our total for the year was $789.67, which comes out to a monthly average of $65.81 for 12 months. This should drop to under $50 a month next year, since I won't need to buy another Verizon phone. The membership category only has 2 items: Harvest Hosts, which is charged $79 yearly, and Waggle, which is charged every 2 years at $299. I had to buy the Waggle monitor for $124.50, but got a little discount for the first 2-year subscription at $269.10, so the total for Waggle was $393.60. Since I now own the unit and the subscription is for 2 years, next year will cost nothing for the Waggle. For this year, though, the total for memberships was $472.60. The final category is entertainment, which totaled a bit over $4,000. The reason we traveled is to see the sights, and for us, that means museums and other entertainment venues. Our yearly expense for this was $482.57, which averaged $60.32 per month of actual travel. We like to eat out when we travel, either to celebrate events or to try local cuisine, so this is a rather high expense for us. We average $379.26 per month of travel for a total of $3,034.09 for the year. This may seem rather high, but remember, we sometimes paid for family since we were staying at their place at the time. Okay, let's face it, we like to eat out. We sometimes buy snacks for the road, enough times that I thought it would be a good idea to make it a separate expense. We had the munchies enough to spend a total of $183.71 for the year. Munchies. We like to remember the places we've been, so like to buy t-shirts or magnets or whatever, and also buy gifts for family and friends, totaling $304.09 for the year. When you stay at a Harvest Host, you not only have a place to sleep, but get to sample their wares, like wine and other products. We like to support these businesses, so try to purchase something, spending $237.90 for the year. Sometimes we use their products for ourselves, but a lot of times we give it to friends and family as gifts, so it's a win-win for us and the hosts. Everything else gets lumped into miscellaneous purchases, including parking fees, showering at a Lowe's travel stop, and other expenses. We didn't have too many of these, only totaling $103.51 for the year. So, what did we spend after traveling over 15,000 miles in a year? A total of $17,544.92. In 12 months, that averages out to $1,462.08 a month. Or if you only include the months we actually traveled in the RV, it averages out to $2,168.83. If you include all the costs of travel in this year, vehicle, living, membership, and entertainment, then we spent $1.16 per mile. To me, that is the most relevant figure, as it tells me what RV travel actually costs us per mile. If we travel more next year, let's say 25,000 miles, then I can estimate our spending will be around 29 grand for RV travel. Before you think that is a huge amount of money, remember, we were on the road for at least a part of 8 months of the year. Not only that, but if we had traveled the same distances in a car, we would have had hotel and food expenses for every single day, which we didn't have in the RV. So keep that in mind. The highest expense was fuel, at 21%. But that's to be expected. You can't travel unless you have fuel, and the whole point is to travel. The next biggest expense was restaurants at 17%, which I didn't expect, but knowing us, maybe I should have. And after that, we have a tie at 14% for both hotels and RV maintenance. We updated the second alternator, so assuming no large maintenance is used next year, that should go down. Hotels, on the other hand, probably won't go down. We use them when we get RV repairs or on trips when we need to decompress from the rigors of travel, and sometimes just because. And as I said before, with the dog, the hotels tend to cost more. RV insurance was at 9%, which I guess is okay since we want to protect this rather large investment, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite that much of a total yearly cost. Everything else was 5% or less, a total of 26% for yearly expenses. If you want a copy of the chart, you can find it on my Roads of Life website under the Files tab, listed under the heading, Are Class Bs Worth the Money? The link is in the description. So after all that long year of recording and calculating and creating a spreadsheet, do you think spending over 17 grand is a good figure for expenses while traveling in an RV? I have no way to answer that. How much you spend in a year depends on how much you travel, and spending in any category is a personal decision. Like I said, your expenses will be different. You may not spend as much in many of the categories we did, or who knows, you may end up spending quite a bit more. Expenses for each year can change. You may have no issues with your RV one year and a whole host of mechanical problems the next. You need to budget for these kinds of expenses just in case something bad happens on the road. To put this in some kind of perspective, we went to Europe for 2 weeks and probably spent around 17 grand just for the two of us. Now, obviously, we got to see Europe, which is at a whole other level, but our RV travel cost us about the same, and we've been traveling throughout the year, not just for 2 weeks. Every trip in the RV includes museums, historical sites, roadside oddities. We got to see family and friends, met new people along the way, and made a host of incredible memories. You'll have to decide if those kinds of experiences and memories are worth the money spent. I'm in no way saying traveling to Europe wasn't worth it. It very much was. But RV travel has been pretty spectacular too. Be seeing you. Catch you later, partner.
We most certainly will have an interaction in the future, yeah?
Peace. Meh. It does seem like you could talk the legs off a chair. It does seem like you could talk the gate off its hinges. It does seem like you could talk the hide off a cow. It does seem like you could talk the ears off a mule.